Marketing in 2025, almost feels like a paradox now, given the age of AI. We have more tools, we have more data, we have more automation, AI-led automation, and yet somehow teams are still struggling with the fundamentals of personalization and agility.
We recently published a report with The Atlantic, and a part of that is 89% of marketing teams are using AI, but only 25% are actually using it for personalization. And when I talk to fellow CMOs on the why, they get stuck on it's too complicated. They go through what is every single possible persona I could target, every single piece of content that I would need to make for them, and they don't know where to start.
Today on Marketing Growth Fuel, we're joined by Elizabeth Maxson Martinet, Chief Marketing Officer at Contentful and a seasoned leader at the intersection of content, technology, and growth. With over a decade of experience driving global marketing at Salesforce and Tableau, Elizabeth has led everything from product marketing and GTM strategy to large-scale brand and ecosystem initiatives. At Contentful, she's focused on helping brands deliver agile, scalable, and personalized content in an AI-first world. This conversation dives into what modern marketing leadership really looks like and how content, data, and trust come together to drive impact. Let's get started. Welcome back to Marketing Growth Fuel, the podcast where we go beyond funnels and frameworks to uncover the people and purpose behind great marketing. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Elizabeth, marketing in 2025, almost feels like a paradox now, given the age of AI. We have more tools, we have more data, we have more automation, AI-led automation, and yet somehow, the teams are still, struggling with the fundamentals of, personalization and agility. And maybe it's not about the access anymore. It's about how to use these tools more meaningfully. So I want to kind of start unpacking, where marketers often get it wrong. And in your opinion, what is perhaps the biggest misconception about how marketers are using buzzwords like personalization, agility in their practice?
I love calling out buzzwords because I feel like, isn't that what everyone thought marketing was? So I love that. But you're right, personalization and agility have become buzzwords. One of the things I found interesting, we recently published a report with The Atlantic, and a part of that is 89% of marketing teams are using AI, but only 25% are actually using it for personalization. And when I talk to fellow CMOs on the why, they get stuck on it's too complicated. They go through what is every single possible persona I could target, every single piece of content that I would need to make for them, and they don't know where to start. And one of the things that I really love sharing is our own use case of personalization. And a big part of this is thinking really big, starting small, and moving fast. So an example for you is if you think about email. Email has always been personalized for many years. That's nothing new. I think that, that's an expectation everyone assumes. Why are we not assuming the same type of personalization when you go to a website? And again, thinking big, it can be very simple. So for example, people that have come to your website before, first-time visitors. Those are two separate segmentations, right? Who are your current customers versus your prospects? Two different segmentations. And so what I think websites and companies need to start doing is really thinking about how can you be personalizing your content to make sure that really the right messages are hitting, the right audience at the right time. So a quick example of that for us is, our web team found that, it was over 28% of our customers that were visiting our website and our homepage were clicking login. Well, if they're logging in, they clearly have already purchased Contentful. So why would I have a banner saying, well,
True.
why buy Contentful, right? So instead, we have like really fun hooks to get their attention in different ways. So one example of this is we did if every marketer is familiar with lorem ipsum, typing in, the random placeholder copy. And we put that on our website with a ... that then said whatever. And it was a really good fish hook that caught people's attention to push to our personalization website. Like, hey, we just did this. We personalized content for you. Go see how we did it. Go check out our personalization product. And we actually saw a 276% increase of traffic by separating out current customers against non-current customers. So you can drive so much value so quickly if you just take a step back and really simplify it and just start thinking of segmentation in very easy buckets. You don't have to get so deep in the weeds on every piece of content, every single different persona. So I think that's the biggest misconception is they overcomplicate it, and you can do a lot of great things if you just stay a little bit.
I think it's a very interesting statistic that the report that you mentioned, you cited, while many teams are using AI, only a small percentage are actually applying it for audience segmentations or personalizations. What's that first mindset or a structural change perhaps a marketing leader needs to make to bridge that gap?
Well, I think first of it, it's also a regional aspect. One of the things that we found in terms of what marketers stack rank are most important to them. So marketers in North America, for example, prioritize campaign optimization, whereas marketers in EMEA, and rightfully so, are prioritizing governance. And so I think there needs to be a regional aspect to this as a way to combat that. And another thing that our evidence has shown is this new idea of evidence-based creativity, which is the idea of using and combining AI-driven insights with human creativity. So if you think about data, I believe every marketer should be data-driven. And I think where they are data-driven is maybe misplaced. So for example, if you think about your content lifecycle, I find that most marketers tend to only think about data at the very end. How did my content perform? What is the pipeline that it is driving? What other metrics or impact am I having on the business after I've already delivered this piece of content? A great opportunity now with having this evidence-based creativity in mind is actually using AI insights at the start of your strategy. What data do you know up front to be able to be driving, whether it's that segmentation for personalization, the campaigns that you're running, the content that you're creating, and also throughout the entire content lifecycle. So I think that's, a pretty outdated practice right now in the respects that marketers only care about data at the end, and they need to start thinking about it through the entire
I love that term that you use. Was it evidence-based creativity?
Evidence-based
And how can
creativity.
leaders actually
Yes.
build that culture inside the teams that they're managing? Especially, given the fact that today creativity and analytics often live in separate silos.
Yes. I mean, data's hard. It's just like AI in terms of garbage in is garbage out. So, you have to, assume the same with your data, hoping that it's easy, accessible, it's clean, that you trust it. Those are core fundamentals of your data in the first place. But I think what leaders really need to do is empower their marketing teams to be able to leverage this data to make decisions up front to support their strategy, and not just think of it as a tool that's used as a KPI tracker and performance readout, right? I think another example of this is thinking about where analytics comes to play in different aspects. An example for us is we've recently launched an analytics product in beta where we are helping customers understand analytics within your content at a component level. So the idea being here of, not just understanding this ebook, performed better than this ebook, but the why behind it. What is the sentiment behind it? And I think the more that marketing leaders can empower their teams to be leveraging data in different ways is really going to help them, unlock being more successful and leveraging being this evidence-based creativity.
No, I'm just going to double click on something that you mentioned. You talked about sentiment, and I think the larger, term that I would like to use for is the emotional engine. that makes everything matter, right? It's
Yeah.
how you position the brand, how do you, tell those stories. Uh, and I think just before the age of AI, I would still say that brand storytelling for me was all about emotion. It was about the reach, but it's kind of evolved to this piece where it's about meaning and it's about precision, uh, and especially now that in the last, I think, 9 months or so, you've seen a lot of generative search appearances coming forward, zero click era, and then the shorter attention spans because of the likes of TikTok and Instagram, maybe YouTube Shorts as well. I think the brand's ability to position itself authentically is really becoming more important than ever. Uh, and what do you think? What are some of the key ingredients that actually make brand positioning truly stand out um, in a crowded market today?
Well, I think we should
Hmm.
start with the problem, which is with everyone using AI,
Yeah,
it's all
true, true,
sounding
true.
so generic. And, I'm sure you've heard
Yeah.
it's the AI slop, right? So that's the problem. One of the things I love saying is more content doesn't
Fair.
equal better
Hmm.
content equals better content. And I love the
Hmm.
emotional engine that you mentioned because at Contentful, we don't believe in B2B or B2C. We believe in
Hmm.
B2H, which is business to human. And I think what marketers really need to be doing is really meeting customers where they're at and
Hmm.
provoking that human emotion. That is going to be really key
Hmm.
to breaking through that noise, right? We're all humans on
Hmm.
the outside of things. And one thing that AI does not have is
True.
lived experiences, cultural references. I also think even staying, ahead of trends or leaning into
Hmm.
trends in really great ways. A fun example of this, I don't know if you're familiar with DJ Mustard, but he actually had a top song, and one of our customers, Kraft Heinz, actually their mustard brand
Okay.
partnered with Mustard and they promoted this limited edition flavor, and it was the first time
Interesting.
the brand has ever co-created a product in the United States. Like, huge shout out to Todd Kaplan, who was their Amer
Hmm.
CMO that pulled this off. But they did this amazing campaign, and it was such a cool thing, like that you would never expect from
Right.
necessarily Kraft Heinz. And it was a really cool moment where they took a moment in time that was going to be very
Hmm.
trendy and resonate, and they partnered with this awesome musical creative
Hmm.
that was going to help bring their brand to life too. It was such like an interesting,
Hmm.
unexpected partnership, and I thought that was a really cool moment to show how
Hmm.
something is relevant in culture, relevant in what's going on in the world. It was trendy, it was unexpected. They did
Hmm.
a 30-second ad, they had auto home
Hmm.
buys all over the place. So I just think that's a cool way and a cool campaign
Right.
example of how to tie
And for
into
brands
some
that are
resonance in the world.
completely digital, they're probably powered or by AI, or at least they depend upon Google and the search engines for discoverability. I think there's a lot that's changed there as well. uh, so I would want to understand from you, what should a brand do in the era of zero clicks and generative answers taking away their spots?
I mean, I think there's a common misunderstanding right now of that. If you think about marketers and how they're creating content today, we could do a whole podcast, by the way, on
Same
GEO.
here.
Like, I love that. Just be a whole conversation on how to do that. But if
Hmm.
you think about the funnel, right? The funnel is
Hmm.
no longer a three-course meal.
Hmm.
It is a full buffet. You have to meet customers where they're at, and they are grabbing content
Absolutely.
from all over the place, whether it is when they're doom scrolling
Absolutely.
TikTok to, auto home buys they're seeing on their way to work or on the bus, to what they're reading, what their podcasts they're listening to. There's so many different aspects where content is reaching
Hmm.
consumers in a new way. And, I think a really great example here too is that take the
Hmm.
average search on
Yeah.
Google is 4 words. The average search in
Hmm.
LLM is 30. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, 5 years ago, I'm looking to buy some new trail running shoes. I would Google
Hmm.
women's trail
Hmm.
running
Yeah.
shoes. Versus now if I'm in an LLM, I'm saying, I'm a female in my 40s with 4 children. I live in San
Hmm.
Francisco. I'm a medium hiker. I want the ability to have a great shoe to, hike in the redwoods, but can easily transition to playground play with my
Right.
kids immediately afterwards. What shoe should
Yeah,
I
no,
buy?
I get it.
It's like,
Hmm.
it's very specific, right? And so, in the same sense, then consumers are expecting now very specific, more personalized results, which again comes back to the content that companies need to be making to be able to serve up those results. And again, if you think about segmentation again and that personalization, another great example of another one of our customers is Ruggable. They segmented their customers by cat owners and dog owners. And if you came to their website through an ad that had a picture of a dog, then every rug that you saw had a dog on it versus a cat. And they saw a 25% increase in conversion based on having this type of segmentation. And so it's these slight personalization to start, leveraging the way that consumers are starting to engage in their searches in a different way. And really having that single source of modular content is really going to help deliver along that entire customer journey.
But in the era where, brands are continuously trying to figure out where do I get the maximum visibility, given, like you said, the funnels changed, right? It's no longer a 3-course meal, it's a buffet. I also of the opinion, I think the way buyers are buying today, B2, be it B2C or B2B, is completely changing, right? I mean, it could be a conversation that you and I could be having about a tool. It could be a Reddit forum. It could be a 9gag post for that matter. Because you mentioned AI slop, you just clicked on. I've been following that keyword on 9gag quite a bit, but I think a lot's changing there. And now CMOs are trying to figure out, how should I look at brand visibility? Because what's happening is everything is for, the likes of a Google for that matter. Maybe in some regards, I think Copilot with Google, Microsoft as well. They're just summarizing, and everything's being surfaced by that AI mode, even before they reach your site. And how should a CMO approach this?
They should think of AI as a new persona or a channel. You know what I mean? You have to be serving content to bots just as much as humans. So what is your human digital experience and what is how are you serving bot traffic that is crawling your website for more information to make sure that you are showing up in searches correctly and highly ranked? And a lot of this, by the way, we have an awesome playbook on it, but a lot of the tips on it is just getting more specific. It's thinking about your FAQs. It's your product pages, getting down to very specific features. It's also, I joke and say PR
Absolutely,
is making a comeback. You need to spend some more time on your media strategy. That is a huge outlet. Also, reviews. If you think of Gartner Peer Insights or G2, what is your strategy there? There needs to be more emphasis in all the different areas that LLMs are crawling for this information. Same with Reddit. It's areas that actually take quite a bit of time, and I think you almost need to rethink your team a little differently. And is your social manager who is your Twitter and LinkedIn, how are they expanding to Reddit, and how are they partnering with your blog team to make relevant content that you already have built but can be repurposed in other forums? I think is really going to help with serving both the humans and
no,
the
true.
bots.
I think I resonate a lot with what you've said, because I've seen that shift happening from a publishing standpoint of view. Because as a digital publisher, we are meant to do a lot of research when we're writing all of these articles, and we are trying to figure out how can we show up in those results. But at the same time, we see an influx of brands coming up and saying, listen, how can you help us get more visibility in these search engines? Can you cite us more? Can you create some sort of a strategy? And that's why I think media is coming back, PR is coming back. And I think it was almost a couple of years back, I'd come across this interesting Reddit thread which kind of compared SEO to having a golden commode in your restroom. The only way the only way people would know about it is if you invited somebody in, okay, and they wrote about it. And then the other aspect is, okay, you invited somebody in, they wrote about it, but was the person credible enough? Okay, and there are levels of
Exactly.
credibility, right? So
Yes.
if Elon Musk talked about the commode in your house, well, you're all over the internet. But maybe somebody else in some other small country wrote about it. Perhaps not. And I think the whole generative engine optimization piece is really now starting to build more towards it, right? So it's how much are you being cited? What is your website
Of
looking
course.
like? How friendly is your content? You talked about, I think, FAQs, but there's also the too long to read TLDRs. Then there's the
Yes.
LLMs.txts. I think the brands have to start now putting all together. I'm sure brands as yourself are doing a lot more in this space to help brands figure out how do they make their websites and their content friendly for search engines. But great, but that's a lot about the tech, and we also talked about how brands need to be more maybe perhaps connecting to the audiences, more create content which is more relatable. uh, but I think the marketer's job is also going to try and figure out the story that you really developed it is how would you connect it to the buyer's journey. And I think that's where a lot of teams
Mhm.
lose context. um, what are some of the mistakes you think people or marketing teams are making today when it comes to that?
I think it goes back to not really
Mm.
understanding their funnel, and the top of the funnel really is collapsing, and they need to start thinking about this. This is an area we call the great content collapse, which is you have to think about it in a couple different ways. You have your operating model is collapsing because your board is giving you pressure. Listen, marketers have always been
Absolutely.
asked to do more with less. That is not new. But there's this new element of do more with
True,
less
true.
and with AI, right? And show impact on AI. And another part of our research showed is that 96% of CMOs are
Mm.
prioritizing AI adoption, yet only 65% are actually doing any
Mm.
major investments in it. And I think the problem is a lot of leaders right now are really stuck
Yeah.
in experimentation mode, and for a couple different reasons. One is the technology
Mm.
is moving way too fast, right? And so a tool you might have used a couple months
Mm.
ago has completely changed and is wildly better or wildly different. And I think there's a lot of fear of where do I
Mm.
invest? I don't really know, what to do. I think another aspect of this is a lot of AI
Mm.
use is one to one, meaning like you and I are not necessarily sharing a chat GPT
Right.
query and chatting with each
Mm.
other. So it's not
Mm.
collaborative in that way. And so I think there is not enough
Mm.
sharing that's happening. And this could be more involving into how to have a proper AI
Mm.
culture within your company. And it's sharing your best use cases and what's working, what's not working. But what I think one of the best things that leaders can be doing to really support the content they're making for their buyer's journey is they
Mm.
really need to start
Interesting.
committing and looking at tools of AI that
Mm.
handle the mundane tasks, the ones that are going to make your teams more efficient, what is going to seamlessly integrate into your tech stack so
Mm.
you can innovate faster. If you can provide that for your marketing team and they can be left with their
Mm.
creativity to drive, building out these content and campaigns to do that, I think then they can meet the needs, as we talked about,
Mm.
of this buffet where they need to reach their
Mm.
audiences across the board. So I
True,
think
true,
there's a
true, true.
lot to unpack there, but a lot has to do with like driving the right culture, getting into your tech stack, and at what point you gotta make the move. Like we
True.
got to stop experimenting and we have to start committing into really embedding
Right.
AI
I
into
was
your
having
workflows.
a conversation with what was it? Heather from UST, who's the chief data scientist, was it? Yeah. And she mentioned very similar thoughts that I think we were having a conversation on why most of the AI implementations are stuck at pilots and not going beyond. So one is the value aspect of it. How much value is it adding to your business? It really is it just driving automation faster, or is it really truly adding value at the bottom line in terms of numbers? And the second aspect I think we discussed was how leaders need to commit, to that implementation. I think
Yes.
it's got to do a lot with the change that it's going to bring about in terms of the kind of culture that you talked about AI culture. I think we discussed something similar as well. How do you build that culture where AI is perhaps now going to be embedded in your workflows? Back in the day, I believe when computers started off, right, it was to be a skill. Now it's completely embedded. So the whole AI bubble is
Right.
perhaps the generative AI bubble is going to perhaps crash, but the AI bubble is going to grow stronger. But I think a lot of great insights specific to that. I think that's what the narrative outside as well, and that's what people are talking about as well. All right, so let's keep moving, right? So we've talked about personalization. We've talked about storytelling. But then there's the element of human creativity. At the same time, we are
Yes.
talking about machine intelligence, MLs. Uh, but now, what I want to talk about is how is that balance, changing, especially modern marketing leadership, right? So, because marketing is evolving faster than ever, because you have AI, everything's embedded in workflows now. I mean, and there's an AI tool for everything that you probably do, right? Um, and
It's like
it is scary.
scary.
You wouldn't believe it. Just the other day, because we make a lot of video content, and we are having these conversations, we were looking at some tool which would allow us to pick up segments. And I was like, the first question I asked myself, like, there could be an AI tool for that, and there was not one. There were like dime a dozen. Um,
Well, it's like back at when app.
yeah,
Remember the
exactly,
whole? There's an
exactly.
app for
Now
that.
there's an
Remember
AI
when
app for
you?
that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so
This
it's
is now an
there's
AI.
this all this tech. And the irony of everything, and I think something that you pointed out, right? It's we have so much AI slop. Okay, um, people are now looking for real content, not just content that's been regenerated by multiple brands across. Uh, People want to know the human side of brands. Uh, People want
Mhm.
brands to be human again. Uh, in your opinion, what's that one skill perhaps remains uniquely human in marketing and in the technology that we are using to develop?
Well, I think first, the reason why brands want to have a more human approach because I think
Mm,
that leads to more trust and
mm,
loyalty back to the brand. So I think that's
mm,
what we're trying to solve for. So what I think about is what do I have and my team and all marketing teams have as
mm,
humans that AI does not? And that is going back to lived experiences,
mm,
it's cultural resonance, and it's feelings. I mean, sure,
true.
AI can
Yes.
mimic and
Yeah.
say what to feel, but no one can feel what it was like to drop off my kids at school when one was super happy and one was having a temper tantrum. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that is a lived experience. It
True.
affects my everyday. And I think that is one of the things that marketers really need to take a step back and realize they have so much
Mm,
value to bring to the
mm,
table that AI doesn't. And this doesn't have to be so doom and gloom and fear based of AI is going to
mm,
take away my job. If anything, I look at it as how can
mm,
AI elevate you to be
mm,
able to do more? And again, this goes back to if AI can solve for your
mm,
operational, mundane tasks, things that you don't want to be doing, what could that
mm,
unlock for you? Would that give you more space to be strategic? Would that give you more space to have with your family? It could be a professional goal, it could
mm,
be a personal goal. And I think another thing marketing leaders should be doing is actually spending more time on writing goals that
mm,
AI should be solving for. I think this kind of goes back to the experimentation phase of
mm,
what are you solving for? Are you trying to save money from spending with agencies by
mm,
bringing things more in house? Are you trying to produce more better content because you're serving, more personalized audiences? Like what is the why of what you're doing? And once you solve that for your team, what
mm,
else could you be doing more of? So I think there is a huge opportunity to solve for speed and efficiency and being more strategic and more creative. But that
mm,
starts with the person. And if teams start putting people and humans in your team
mm,
at the center first, and then start surrounding them with AI
mm,
tools to help them elevate, that is what I feel the most successful leaders will drive
mm.
really high performing
One of our
teams.
previous episodes, we touched upon this piece. Where do you think there's a lot of fear mongering when it comes to AI taking away jobs, and of all the things marketers' jobs?
100%. 100%. And it's not just content creators, it's designers. We have, one of our customers actually replaced their entire product marketing team with AI, and they're operating in a whole different way. There's a lot of, adoption of agents as teammates, and, how can you be automating different practices between organizations to break down silos and drive your go-to-market strategy in a different way. I think a lot of this has to start with, where has your company started? Are you a SaaS first company or an AI first company? And that's a divide in itself. But then also, how big your company is. Sure, if I have a startup today, could I have tons of agents as my teammates and operate in a completely different way? 100%. I don't know that that's as realistic for, more growth companies or larger enterprises. I think they have to be thinking about, the use of agents as teammates in a different way. But I still bet on my humans. And also it's new roles that are emerging out of that. So I look at it as an opportunity. It's new skills. We should all be in this growth mindset of learning, and how can we take advantage of this? I mean, there's never been a more exciting time.
And I think we touched upon it earlier, but I think everybody's trying, experimenting with AI, but that perhaps the true potential is also going to lie in integration. In your opinion, all marketing leaders, or maybe people across the boardroom, given the fact that the entire tech stack is changing, the workflows are getting diverse, marketers are expected to be fluent in almost everything. I had a conversation with somebody who said that marketers now need to be good coders as well, which I thought was a little too out there, but
That's a little too much.
And he needed to be a graphic designer and a content writer and many other things. But what's that big, bold bet that leaders should now make, given full stack marketers, diverse workflows, and technology stacks?
Yeah, the big bet is to bet on your people, and you either need to train your team differently or hire differently. So one of the things we believe is there is this next generation of marketers. You mentioned it. We call them a full stack marketer, right? A marketer that can be able to, have all these different skills with managing a complex, tech stack, prompt optimization. But there are other skills that marketers rank as in their priority. So the top 4 that we found are, of course, AI, prompt optimization. It's also experienced digital design, analytics, and personalization. So I think teams really need to start focusing on those skills. I also mentioned there's a lot of new roles emerging. For example, in our team, we just hired an AI engineer. This person sits in my MarOps team, and they're going to be a builder for us. That was really unique. It's new job descriptions, it's new interview questions, it's different prompts. And then I think the other thing is, how can you be hiring or really investigating your team on soft skills that maybe we haven't really paid much attention to? An example of this is curiosity. How can you operate in ambiguity? Those are the type of people I want to attract to my team, because those are the ones I feel like if you're curious and you can operate really well without, asking a lot of questions before moving forward and using AI to help you get there, I think that is going to be, really great for a big bet for leaders to think about is, how to think about your team differently. What are the skills you think they should have? So either train and get them there, or you need to hire differently to make sure that you are meeting that need.
I'm just going to build on this, right? So obviously, you are also, one of those leaders who's investing forward in AI, like many others, right? And this across the board, but purely from a marketing standpoint of view, how would you then go about measuring ROI from the investment that you're making?
Well, I think it goes back to what the goals are, right? So, for example, we host this amazing event for our field marketing and prospects called Contentful at the Cinema. And we buy out AMCs all over the world, and we host movie premieres. So we've had fun with this, with Wicked. Formula One is another customer of ours. We did the Formula One movie. We have Wicked 2 coming up on next week. And our team has used AI to produce an incredibly insane movie trailer to introduce the event. I probably would have spent, let's say I would have created this maybe 5 years ago. Honestly, maybe $50,000 to $75,000 to produce this type of content. And my video producer and my head of creative have done it together in a matter of a couple weeks. We use 11 Labs for a voiceover. It is incredible the amount of work that the team can bring in house. So for me, the ROI on that is obviously the amount of money I have saved of not outsourcing to an agency, not outsourcing to actors, not outsourcing, you know, many recordings over and over again to get the voice and the tone right. Or what if I change the script last minute? There's so many different aspects where marketing teams can move so much faster. And now I can use that money in different ways. And I'm reallocating my budget to support different campaigns and different parts of that cycle. So I think it comes back to proper goal setting and really challenging your team to think differently. If you give them, these mini projects or like micro moments to solve for, I think you'll see how creative they really can be at the tools that are at their fingertips.
First is, I think the AI investments need to be goal driven. What is the value that I will derive at the end of it? Now, it could be a financial number, or it could just purely be, an IP based piece that you're doing, right? Because at the end of the business, you're trying to create value. Okay. And I think moving forward for a lot of CMOs, it's going to be important to understand how is it that my AI investment will not only affect the bottom line, but also the top line of the organization. And I think along that, we will learn a lot more, because this is ever evolving. I think it keeps changing on the fly. But great, we've got so much today, from strategy to leadership and obviously the human edge in marketing. Let's loosen up a little and see how you think on your feet.
I'm going to be
Yes,
put to
you
the
are.
test.
The next segment is what we call the marketing mashup, this or that. It's a quick fire round where we give you two options. You need to pick one, and you can choose to tell us why you chose that. But you have to pick one.
Okay.
I think of it as a sneak peek into your marketing instincts, to be honest. So whenever you're ready, let me know, and then we'll go for it. Okay.
We just got to do
All
it.
right.
Let's get started.
Brand campaigns or demand gen?
100% brand campaigns. They are the one that create long-term business value and emotional connections with
Content
customers.
strategy or product marketing?
We're Contentful. Of course, I'm partial to content strategy.
Awareness metrics or pipeline metrics?
100% pipeline. Every CMO is held accountable for pipeline.
Agile workflows or long-term planning?
Agility. I think that is a core capability for marketers, especially in this AI
Email
era.
campaigns or social media campaigns?
Oh my gosh.
You have to pick
both.
one.
As long as they are personalized and highly creative.
Okay. Event experiences or digital experiences?
Okay, I will argue that this is no longer an or, because wait, hear me out. The lines have completely faded with events, right? Like the best digital experiences feel like events, and in-person events have great digital components. But I am a sucker for an in-person event. I will say that.
Big launches or iterative testing?
Testing 100%. I think this taps into the evidence-based creativity that I touched on earlier, and trying to iterate and find the best solution also plays into agility as well.
One before we let you go. AI-powered personalization or human-crafted storytelling?
I'm all about personalization. We've been talking about this the entire time. We have to focus on
Great.
personalization.
I loved your answers. I think it was really a fun segment. And before we finally let you go, here's a creative one for you. If your brand voice had to be represented by a fictional character, someone who totally gets your tone, your values, who would it be and why?
For us, it would be Ted Lasso.
I absolutely love that series. I've watched it twice, and I don't mind watching it once again.
It is the best show. I just got chills. I can feel it in my heart. He's smart. He's emotionally intelligent. He's encouraging. He reflects what our Contentful is really solution-oriented in mindset. And we are helping marketers, deliver results while also maintaining that creativity, that strategy, that human element. He's a believer. We are a believer. Ted Lasso is the perfect answer.
I think that was a great series, and I think they had a great character, a well-defined, developed character. And I think the journey for, was it 4 seasons or 6? 4 or 5 seasons. I think coming up with the 5th season now. Yeah. I think this did a bang on job. But this has been incredible, Elizabeth. I think I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. We've kind of talked about everything, right? So right from rethinking personalization to evidence-based creativity, and I think was it balanced storytelling, and how you could probably look at AI-driven strategies and what are going to be the metrics that we're going to be measuring. I think you brought a lot of clarity and energy to this conversation. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Any parting thoughts?
No, I think this is one of the most exciting times to be a marketer. I believe all have so much to bring to the table, and there's a lot that marketing leaders can do. So I really appreciate this conversation and shedding some light on how to think about things differently. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Let's make this an exciting time. This is just like mobile. It's like internet. This is the next wave. I think it's a great time to be a marketer.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, once again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.